Hi there, thanks for joining me today. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Catherine. I'm going to do a flip through of this pretty little journal that I finally recently finished. And so I hope you enjoy. As ever, I expect I will be way too talkative, but that's me, and that's the way I roll. So when I say she's little, she's about 4.5 inches by about 5 3/4, and I think she's about 1 1/4 inch spine. Yeah, about 1 1/4 inches. There's 118 pages in this journal, and although I went nuts, for me, I went nuts with embellishing to sort of go along with this little story that I created in my head, all thanks to this little picture that we'll get to. And I may sort of tell the story right now, get it over with, and then we can just enjoy the flip through so that hopefully it won't take too long. So, but we need to get into it so that you can see where this story is going. I have, as ever, I would dare say 95% of everything in this journal, as with my usual journals, are all from repurposed sources. So thrift stores, antique stores, yard sales, Happy Mail, gifted to me, that sort of things. And I'm not kidding. The papers, I find the paper at thrift stores, laces, ribbons, pictures. I find books at thrift stores, and I cut out the pictures and make them into completely different things. And occasionally there are very few brand new things. Some things you cannot, I cannot find in thrift stores, and I have to resort to purchasing, but not very much. Definitely glue and definitely distress inks have been purchased new. So this is vintage ribbon with just a magnificent grungy look to it, faded, and although it's not dirty, it just looks like it's seen better days, which I love. I think it used to be a light green, so it's perfect. So this, the whole story in my mind behind this journal, let's bring you down a little bit so that you can see her better. This beautiful little picture just mesmerized me. I got it out of a book on the history of photography. So the picture itself was in a book, but it's a photo of, I believe it was a daguerreotype taken in 1855. And this little child's face just mesmerized me. First of all, because she looks like one of my granddaughters. I even showed it to her mother, and she said, "Oh my goodness, that does look like her." And so she had me mesmerized, and I wondered how am I going to use her in this journal? And it just, this story started developing in my head. Originally, this book was Lorna Doone, and it was published, this edition, because Lorna Doone's been published a million times. So if you're new here, please don't worry that I have gutted and repurposed a classic, expensive book. It was published in 1924, so it's 101 years old, the book itself. But it's Lorna Doone. Look it up. It's been published so many times. This is actually my second Lorna Doone from this publisher that I've made into something completely different. The other one I turned into a Christmas journal. So I just imagined that, I kept thinking that she looked like a little elf or a little waif. And then I thought, it looks like a mugshot. Who would do a mugshot of a child? And then I thought, maybe she's actually a fairy. And a fairy catcher caught her and had her captured for a while and took this mugshot of this fairy. And of course, that's why she doesn't look very pleased that she got caught. And so I added wings to her. I just always imagine fairies with wings that are more the shape of dragonflies than butterfly wings. But you know what? Don't hold me to that. So I put some wings on her. But as you can see, even within the picture, she's breaking free. And what I imagined is she got away from that fairy catcher and she was able to get back to her little woods, and he decided to go back after her again. And he put together a book with some of his evidence that he had so that he could try and hunt her down again and recapture her. And that at some point in the woods, something happened to that evil fairy catcher. And he dropped the book and it landed on the forest floor and it got mucky and muddy and he was gone, and that she actually found the book and she just kept putting things in it that she liked. And so that's how the story came about. So that's why you'll see in occasionally, like here, it says identification check. These were his labels that he put on it for her. This was the number that he gave for her file. And the book that he originally had started was falling apart, so she found some human lace and made the book strong again after it had been laying in a mud puddle. And then I just imagine that she finds things that belonged to humans that she thinks are pretty, you know, sort of the way Little Mermaid has her grotto that she keeps all her human things in. And there's gold threads throughout the book. I imagine that fairies must be friends with magical spiders who spin gold threads for them. So originally I was going to put this on the spine, and I realized that wouldn't work because then the book wouldn't lie flat when it's open for writing in. And then I thought maybe I could put it over on this side, and this profile just looked too wonderful to, it cluttered it up. So what I've just done is I've left it here as if maybe it was hers, and tied it in with the ribbons. So that this will be going with the with this journal to its new home, as will some pages from the original text block. They're just such a yummy color, being 101 years old. They're not the strongest papers, which is why I didn't put very many back into the book, but they certainly can be used to make tags and fun things like that. So the new owner will get one of the signatures from out of the book. And so let's take a look inside at our little fairies, the mugshot mud puddle book, as I've been calling it. So inside, I left the original end paper here because I liked that butterscotchy caramely color. And I also framed and mounted the publication date that was on the original first page. I made a what's called a Dutch door, and this is I had two of the dragonflies that I used for her wings. So I imagined that you know, maybe she's cousins with this kind of dragonfly, and that's why they have similar wings. And of course, perhaps the fairy catcher was keeping track of the different kinds of, you know, to try and find her, where maybe she's hanging out with these dragonflies and that sort of thing. But then I imagine, you know, when she found the book, she made it her own, and she found some human lace, so she sewed it on, and there's some hand sewing there with gold thread. Although it's been glued on, it's also been sewn on. And then here's some paper that has natural grasses and leaves in it, and some toadstools down here. And a little half page here with some leaves and some more human lace that perhaps she found, that people, when they go for a walk through the woods, you know, maybe a lady's dress gets caught on a bush, and she finds it later on and keeps it, puts it in her book. There's a little bit of Edith Holden here. On all these blank tea-dyed papers, and there will be lots of them, there's tons of room for journaling in this book. I have taken the time to, and it did take time. I used a kitchen knife and roughed up all the edges to make it really look like it's been battered and laying around on the floor of a forest, and that it's seen better days. And there was lots of tea spilling when I tea dyed these. So, but see what I mean? Lots of journaling space in here. It's a hidden hollowback spine, so you'll see that usually I do a 6-hole running stitch. This time I did a 4-hole running stitch because it's just little. This was the only photo or illustration in the original text block, and it's perfect. It says the water slide there, and it shows a forest with a babbling brook, little waterfall, and I just imagine, you know, maybe that's where the fairy catcher slid and fell, and off he went, and the book went flying, and he finally gave up on trying to find her and in her woods. This is a tip-out envelope. It's tea-dyed, and it's a faux envelope. So I made up I made an imaginary address and put in an old stamp. I didn't have any green British stamps, but Canada is almost as good because we're part of the UK, so it's got the king on it. So not King Charles. And then I've used a lot of artwork from the book Janet Marsh's Nature Diary, which is very similar to Edith Holden's, but Janet has a much tighter, more detailed way of drawing, but she still does quite a bit of handwriting. And anyhow, her book was apparently drawn in the area of Cheriton, Hampshire in the UK. So I just fabricated an address there. Quite often in little towns over there, they just name the houses and don't necessarily have a street address. The house just has a name. So that's glued in. This is a tuck spot in here. And then I put in a little watercolor, a hand watercolor of some flowers that a friend gave to me. So I just tucked that in there. And I put quite a lot of these little gold rub-ons throughout the book. I just had fun with those. I forgot I had them, found them, and made good use of them. There's another one up here. And here's for journaling on. This little piece of wallpaper is from the 1940s. That was gifted to me. And then there's a belly band here. Again, maybe a label from the fairy catcher as he was trying to collect evidence of where he might find her. And this is a tuck spot. I'm going to put something in there. Here, let's put that in there so we know that it's, that's just a tea-dyed Rolodex card. Can't leave pockets empty. So lots of, the pages are varying sizes, lots of decal edge, lots of torn edge. Again, I did some stenciling to make it look extra mud puddly. And again, some more from that book, The Nature Diary. And I made a little tuck spot there of a little bird. Here's some journaling spot made from a fussy cut from Edith Holden, and Edith's writing of toadstools. And from what I read, because I wondered about toadstools versus mushrooms, toadstools are not edible and mushrooms are edible. So there we go. I imagined that maybe the fairy catcher found these dropped wings, and that perhaps fairies lose their baby wings the way humans lose their baby teeth. And so he thought, oh, those look like hers, and he saved those. And this says identification check on it, this little tab. So maybe that's how he said, okay, I've identified her. Those are definitely her wings. And then I imagine she just found there was a human safety pin that was dropped along a path somewhere, and she saved that and put it in the book once she became the new owner of her own book. Little bunny here from Janet Marsh again, and I made a journaling card from a page from Lorna Doone. It says here, Lorna is still Lorna, and I am not going to figure out what chapter that is in Roman numerals, but if you're good at that, my grandson could do it. He can tell you how old you are like that in Roman numerals. So there we go. A little more Edith. I had some fun making different shapes. I was using some offcuts that were left over from when I was fussy cutting for another book. So see what I mean with the stenciling, just to make it look extra mucky. Rusty paper clip here. And here is actually a genuine antique postcard that went to Mrs. William Brown, which I wonder if I'm related. And it's from Lovingly Laura, and it was sent in 1917. So I just thought that was pretty, and maybe, someone out for a walk and reading her mail as she walked through the woods and dropped it by accident. Maybe a bee was buzzing around her head. Another toadstool here on some mucky paper that's still journalable. A tab here made with butterfly wings on both sides. The first person I saw to do this, it was Nick the Booksmith. I'm not sure if someone else thought of it before Nick, but I saw it first from Nick. Another little butterfly up there. And again, just tons of journaling space. More Edith, more of the gold rub-ons here. And then here is just a paper clip, but with the gold threads. Let's put something there. Empty paper clip needs some tea-dyed paper there. A little tab. It looks like a shipping tab, but it's been made into a folio, so there'll be another half of it. And some ribbon that maybe the fairy found in the forest, and another rusty little safety pin here holding it on, and a toad with some fabric, some old lace that's ripped and torn, and I did a little bit of stenciling there. Little tuck spot here with some Edith, and this is some scrapbook paper from a Tim Holtz collection. A little bit of Edith there, and a little leaf from some silk plants that I found at a thrift store. This is a blank piece of paper from out of the actual text block. There were a lot in the book, and I've put them all back in. Which leads me actually to this, because I have some more blank papers that will also be going with the text block papers. But I created a journaling board to go into the book. And it's also, I just put this little clip. So this little clip is actually new. I imagined that this fabric looked like the fabric from the little dress she's wearing in the mugshot, and that when she outgrew the dress, she used the leftovers to put into her book that she found after the fairy catcher took off and gave up, and a little button, maybe that was the button on the back that closed it. And this matches here, so I made use of that. I left this label blank so that the new owner, if they want to give the journal a name, or if they want to put their own name in it, they can. And the way this would get used is flip it upside down so that that doesn't get in your way. And then you can turn it over and write, and you have a harder surface to write on. And you can keep it in the book, or because there's a ribbon, you can just use the ribbon to tie it onto the back so that there's more lace sticking out, and it just adds to the profile of it. I really enjoy that. Oh, and this was a book. If you're thinking, wow, that looks old, that looks like it could be a book cover, it actually is an old book cover from a school book from the 1940s. I used the text block up, but I saved the covers for just such an occasion. So that will be going along with this little journal. See what I mean? Tons of pages, even though I had fun. I imagined that that the fairy catcher found a little torn bit of her dress, and so he labeled it number 5337 and stitched it on. That he's not a very good sewer, but he stitched it in place that he felt that he had found some more evidence. And some more rub-on stickers. I'm making use of what I've got in this room. I've been trying my best. Actually, I've been succeeding in my no-buy, low-buy challenge for this year. Again, some more rub-on another blank piece of paper from out of the book. I made a little pocket from out of a page from the original text block. So this is what I mean by you'll be able to have fun with the page. The signature that I send along. You can do things like make pockets out of it. And then, of course, some Edith adorns the pocket. And some bumblebees. And then this actually came from my friend Camille. So I imagined that our little fairy found it, and she sewed it into place, and it's just a little flip up there, and you can cover that up with tissue and write on it if you want, and you can see through here the hand sewing instead of using a sewing machine. This came from a guest book that was spiral bound. So I wove some embroidery ribbon through it, and then I actually had a little bit of fun with my markers and drew that on myself. And then this is just the little tags to show you that it's a tuck spot. So you can put other things in there. You don't have to leave my stuff in there if you don't want. This is another blank page from out of the book, and it said Jones on it. That's all it said. So I'm imagining that maybe that was the last name of the fairy catcher. He was the last name Jones, whom we will despise forever. A little bit more Edith here, and some hand sewing rather than sewing machine sewing. And then here is, again, from Janet Marsh. It was a map of where she did her sketching from. So I made it into a journaling card. I backed it with some tea-dyed paper. But I imagine that maybe this is the forest that he was concentrating on, where our little fairy lived. And So it says stone bridge. There's a bridge there. So I imagine maybe that's where that previous, where it said stone cottage. Maybe the stone cottage is over near the stone bridge. And then she also did, pardon me, this was on a big page originally. So I inked it to age it. And it also had a legend that was full. I've since folded it and glued it so that it's a movable tag that also holds things. And so that's the legend of what the different things are on her map. And it even says Canadian geese, where she did get that wrong because those are Canada geese. That's the official name. They're not Canadian geese, unless, of course, they live here in Canada. Then they are Canadian Canada geese. But otherwise, if they live somewhere else, they can be American Canada geese or British Canada geese. This is just a little page out of a children's nursery rhyme book from 1888. So I just tucked that in there. Again, maybe our little fairy found it in the woods and saved it and thought, oh, it's something from the humans. Little things that I was saving. I was actually going to throw this out. This was on the top of a tiny little box, almost the size of a matchbook box, or matches box. So I cut it out, and it's got some bluebirds, which reminded me that I have some vintage Denison stickers. So I found some of those and put that up there as if he's flying down to be with his friends. And it's a little tuck spot. So this is out of Girls Own Annual from 1896. So again, I imagine she found it and she's tucked it into the book, that she's found some more things from humans. And then on the last page, because you probably noticed by now, there's no fairies in this fairy book, because she learned her lesson and did a very good job hiding from him. He might have found pieces of evidence, but he never found her again. But I imagine that by the end, when she was a grown fairy and very efficient at keeping away from the humans, that she put a picture of herself in her book. And that's her as a grown adult lady fairy. And the original artwork, I forget what book I got this out of. Obviously a fairy book. The wings on this fairy were actually white, so I colored those in myself and made them the blue and green, like her wings here, and added the little bits of gold onto it, so that but she still has her brown hair as she does here. And I just thought maybe that's what our grown-up little fairy ended up looking like, a beautiful adult fairy. And then again, some more pieces of the blank papers that were in, and I did some more of the gold rub-ons on them, because this is a little tuck spot in here. I just put those in there. You can put whatever you like in it. Another little gold leafy fern kind of thing. And then, of course, my little symbol there and signature and 2025. So that is my long-winded story of my little fairy mugshot mud puddle book that that I had so much fun. My imagination just went wild with this book, and I really enjoyed it. It will be available for sale. I'm looking into what's going on. Our post office is thinking, our postal workers are thinking of going on strike. So I will make a decision. I may list it later today, and if it sells very fast, I could get it out before the strike. If they go on strike, it'll be May 22nd, and that still gives me time to to get this, once it's over the border, then it's in the hands of the U.S. Postal Service. So then I don't have to worry about it anymore. And I think I could do that. If it's sold today, I could get it in the mail tomorrow, and it could be on its way. So I may very well watch on my Instagram, or subscribe to my shop. The link will be down below, because my shop will notify you if the listing pops up. But I will definitely put a notification on my Instagram that she is available in my Etsy shop. Most likely later today. I usually list my books around 5:30 New York time. I'm not in New York, but I'm in their same time zone, so that's my best way of letting people know what time. So most likely keep an eye out for her today around 5:30. So thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this little flip through and storytelling of our little mugshot mud puddle journal of this sweet little fairy and her happy ending. And who knows whatever happened to that fairy catcher, but we don't care anyways. She was the heroine of the story. So take care, and I hope you are safe and healthy wherever you are, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.